Okay, this is going to be a video about crystals. Okay, so what is a crystal? A crystal is a rock. More importantly, this video is going to be on how to properly use crystals. Crystals are kind of like nutrition if you're like into weightlifting or working out. Like everyone has an opinion. There's people have certain results doing it this way and different results doing this way. It's highly, highly subjective. You're going to get lots of, there's kind of like a sort of general stereotype. It's not really a stereotype. There's a sort of just general crystal theory of like what works and what doesn't work. And that typically does point to like the most truish way possible. But like there's so much bullshit, like you're not going to discover it right away. Kind of like the occult in general. The crystals is just like a macro, or is it a micro version? It's like a macro version, whatever type of version it is of the occult. It's like a whole system in its own. And essentially, crystals is like no different of a tool of like an idol. This is like not like this is just an idol of a random like witch, but like it could be like, more famous. There's a little bit of difference between this and this. They're both tools in the magical system. For example, music. If you're familiar with EDM music, like in EDM, you have different genres. There's trap, and then there's dubstep, there's trance, and there's house, and that's all part of the EDM genre. But in like sort of, I guess, witchcraft or the occult system, like different tools, and like in that genre would be like like idols, crystals, pretty much all the stuff that you put on your altar that makes you feel awesome. So crystals are like the same thing as just all of those other things, but they have a unique sort of special property to them that makes them extra special, and why people flip out and obsess over them. And no one really talks about this that I know of, because it's kind of a crazy thing to say, but I guess I'm going to be the first person to say it. I'm really curious to what my homies, Renee B and Psychosorcerers, think of this theory, because first time I'm sharing this theory is not with the homies, it's on YouTube. Crystals exist in the astral plane and the material plane at the same time. And they possibly exist in even more planes than that. Crazy, right? Yeah, I freaked out when I realized this. I literally flipped the fuck out. Like the kind of freak out where you just don't do anything. You're just like, that kind of freaked out when I realized this. There's this book I read that kind of touches on this subject about crystals. I forget the name of it, but I'll link it into the description. Basically, to keep it short and sweet, when you're astral projecting or dreaming or lucid dreaming, like when you see people sometimes they won't hold their shape. They'll look like a different person, but you'll just know it's them. If you know what I'm talking about, okay, good, you know what I'm talking about. Apparently, crystals are very good at us holding their shape in the astral, because they are in the astral. They're like multi-dimensional things. And that's why people say that like ones that look like this, that have these two ends, can focus your psychic energy. Or like, let me give you an example. When I sleep, and when everyone sleeps, you're going to the astral plane. But what that really is actually like, the astral plane, in my opinion, is all connected. Like it's all together. So like, if person over here is sleeping, person over here, and this is the astral plane, like you're both dreaming, like you could theoretically see each other's dreams, but the reason why you don't is the astral plane, like think of it like space, and like each person like has their own planet essentially. So it's like, and they're very far from each other, but like you could travel around. And the way that I sort of see the astral plane, the way I vision it to sort of make it make sense, is just sort of like this, it kind of looks like the room where you fight Dark Link in The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time in the Water Temple, like really reflective and just like vast, but not as white and brightish, more dark, purple and black. And like the place where I dream, when I go and experience my dreams in the astral plane, I sort of picture as a temple. There's like, walls and gates, and it's like a huge sort of sort of like spire sort of thing. And that's like when I'm dreaming, I'm essentially just sort of exploring my kingdom, essentially, that I built in the astral, which is, all the stuff in my brain and my head and stuff like that. So I'm just in my astral temple. The moment I decide to leave the gate and say, guards, open the gate, I'm leaving the astral temple, or however I would do it, while I'm lucid dreaming, I leave the astral temple. That's me essentially astral projecting, because I'm leaving my my astral temple is what I call it, because my when I'm dreaming, say there's my bed back there, I'm in there up in the astral plane in my astral temple. It might be a really big space, enough to have crazy and wild dreams, but if I wanted to meet some spirits might not come into your astral temple unless you give them a portal, or you have a sigil on your bed or something like that. But usually your astral temple gates are pretty strong. Some people have weaker boundaries than others. So essentially, this is kind of turned into a how to astral project video. I'll maybe do another one on deeper astral projecting video. But I wanted to talk about astral projecting because it relates to crystals. So let's get back to the astral temple thing. So as soon as I go outside my astral temple, it's fucking no man's land. And I crazy astral space that isn't inside your temple space is fucking madness. Anyway, so it's crazy out there, and if you don't know what you're doing, you'll wander some other stuff. But if you somehow brave all the crazy shit, you could travel to somebody else's astral temple and go inside their dream, theoretically. A friend of mine sent me astral bunny rabbits. Anyway, why I wanted to talk about the story, I wanted you to sort of start thinking about the astral plane and sort of get in that sort of astral headspace with me while we talk about the astral. When you think about your dreams, sometimes people don't appear as they should, but you know what they are. Crystals hold their shape. So when I first, now it's all going to tie together, okay? I'm tying it all together. I know I do these long rants, but I try to make them, if you stick around, you're rewarded. And notice I'm getting better at these videos, by the way. I don't ramble as much. I'm getting much better. If I'm not getting better, then, tell me. But I'm trying. I'm trying to figure out a way to make esoteric relatable. So there's a lot of tangents. Anyway, let's get back to the topic I was trying to get on. And now we're going back to the crystals and how to sort of use them properly. There's a lot of shit to learn, and books don't talk about this stuff because it's really hard to talk about. You really need a one-on-one teacher, and that's how I'm trying to do this, I'm tutoring you. So because there's so many different sort of histories on what a crystal is, kind of like nutrition, like what are good carbs, many different people might tell you many different things. What I would do is go with your gut and be smart. I asked the person when I bought this, what is it? And they're like, oh, it's salicite, keep it out of the sun, and charge it by moonlight, and it's helpful for purifying. If I was the person that needed to Google confirm and figure out the true meaning, then I would do that. But for me, that was enough, and it looked kind of like a white sort of color, which to me makes me think of purification. I don't know why, it just does, and because it does, you follow it. You have to sort of follow your soul. That should be another video. I'll talk about using your soul to help you in occult navigation, because if you follow your soul, you're going to get the most powerful energy out of that, and it's going to it's going to take more out of you, but it's just be more of just really fucking just serious damage. Damn, tangent. Okay, so but it wasn't really a tangent, because you need to not be afraid to follow your soul. Our society bombards us with how we need to be a certain way. Guys need to look a certain way. Girls need to have a certain type of boobs or whatever. So much bullshit. You have to be really good at just sort of finding your own truth. I think that's what the New Agers call it, knowing your own truth. I say it looking at your soul and letting your soul sort of guide you. Soul guidance or whatever. We'll come up with some cool names that have to do with the word soul. Soul cruise? I don't know. We'll think of something. Essentially, following your soul helps you know truth. When you're dealing with the esoteric world, you gotta follow your gut, aka your soul. And what was mine? This is white. White is pure. The person said it's a purifying stone. Moonlight is kind of whitish, kind of pearly. The moon looks like a pearl. This kind of could look like a pearl. It made sense to me. I buy it. I also, just for me personally, it looks kind of like a castle, and it reminds me of like a temple, and that made me think, oh shit, my astral temple. And then immediately, as soon as I thought that, every time I picture and think about my astral temple, I see this crystal. Boom. How the fuck did that happen? And I can't like I mean, I could, if I really like meditated and like worked on it, I can undo it. But just like, you know how like some songs get stuck in your head, they were probably powerful, maybe not the best songs, but they had really good arrangement and song music theory to them, and they just like stuck in your head. Crystals, for whatever reason, this is now just what my astral temple looks like. It just is, and I can't, but I'm okay with it because this is a powerful like crystal, and I charge in the moonlight, and it makes me feel badass, and I'm into it. I'm like you can see in my facial expressions, I'm hyped on it. And that's really important to be like, you know, I guess hyped on your own stuff. You got to be grounded too, and that's something I'm still need to work on. So I probably wouldn't be the best person to teach on how to ground yourself. So a little like recap, like crystals exist in the astral plane and the material plane at the same time. I feel like I kind of proved it with like, it's both. It's crazy. And it's all because they hold their shape. They sort of like, they don't have, I mean, if you go too far, you get to this point called the uncanny valley, where like it kind of exists in the astral space as something really creepy and weird that you don't really understand. And you don't want to go to the uncanny valley. Like, this won't be uncanny valley if you know what that means. Cool. If you don't, look up uncanny valley. The reason why this won't be an uncanny valley situation is because it doesn't really look like anything really that we know. Like, doesn't really look like a temple, but it kind of can look like a castle, but it's not enough where it's gonna like, you know, trip you out, you know? It's so abstract, you're not gonna get that uncanny valley. And crystals just happen to have those type of properties. Like, this is spherical, so I might be like, ooh, this looks like the world. And the person that told me about this one, this is fluorite, and fluorite is, I forget what they said about fluorite, but something that has to do with creativity because it's green, it's the color of the earth, and the color of like trees and stuff like that. That's like what this is. Some other people say that fluorite and green crystals and green candles have to do with like wealth and money, because money is green in the United States. And I buy that too, because, you know, you can create money or something like that. It makes sense, but for me, this is a creativity crystal, and it kind of looks like the world, and it's like green, and it flourishes. And because that is a stronger vibe for me than what I read about, but like I can kind of see like both sides. I'm following again what's my soul. I view my soul as a crystal in a way. I used to love playing this video game called Final Fantasy VI, and the magical beings in that game. That's like one of my favorite games. It's like, it's all about magic too. It's so good. In that game, like when the magical creatures die, like what's left is a crystal. It kind of like comes from like their heart area, like right here. And I kind of view my soul as just like, if it was to be a manifestation, in a way, like it kind of is, because this exists in the astral space, the spiritual space, and the material space at the same time. So it kind of is like, essentially, like I'm holding my soul right now, guys. So that analogy really works for me. And there's different parts of the soul, like all the little different shards. Like if I were to break it up, it would be a bunch of shards. And each one of those little shards represents something about my soul. Like maybe right here would be the part where I love sandwiches. You know, you probably have some weird thing, like how, you know how people have like fetish and stuff? There's probably some weird shit you're into. Like you like might have some random obsession with like watching like a certain type of debate on like YouTube, and you're just really into that and you have no idea why, and it just doesn't make any sense. It's harmless, so you don't give a fuck. YOLO. And there's more serious things, like maybe career, or the type of like man or woman you love, like the type of like, you know, things you like, the type of foods you're into. What if you meet somebody else? Well, they have a soul too, and you'll notice that like, I believe New Agers call this sort of like vibrating on different frequencies. When the two souls get together, if you're a soulmate, then you're like vibrating like over 50% of their soul, I would assume. It's like, oh, we like talking about the same type of topics. Like you'll notice that once you have like sort of soul magical awareness, you'll be able to sort of see the strings of vibration between people, and you'll be able to like know like, oh fuck man, that's not part of a soul shard, like don't vibrate the, oh my god. And you can start seeing the train wrecks, and it really helps actually getting good at sort of, you know, soul reading and soul shard theory. Actually will make you a really good like social person, because you'll be able to see souls essentially, and you'll be able to see like what people are into, and you'll be able to sort of like use that knowledge of their soul to communicate in their soul language, and they'll be able to understand you. It essentially makes it really easy for you to get out of conflicts. It's also like if you're really bad with picking up dates, it'll get you really good at that, because you'll just be able to soul communicate, which is a really effective form of communication. And if you're like you don't know what you want to do with yourself, like what your passion is, use like soul theory to like figure it out. So, and you can find, you know, soulmates. So that's what's cool about knowing different souls. And if you do it to yourself, you are you. So you want to know what vibrates your souls, because you need to know what hypes you up. Because when you're in that like, I mean, it doesn't always have to look like this, but like when you're in that state where it's like, yes, oh man, I'm talking about something really interesting, I'm so engaged right now, why does it have to stop, why is it over? Like that type of like super stuff you're really into. Maybe you're just into you're really into watching dog videos, or you're really into like, you know, talking about Star Trek, or you're really into talking about politics, or who knows, or you're really into like a certain type of musical scale from a certain country or something really specific. It just takes you to a place you're just like, ah man. Knowing that about yourself means you could use those parts of your soul, take those soul shards and empower them into your magic. It's like, for me, for example, I know I really like you know, symbols and like shapes and stuff like that. So what do? I realized that, like, oh, I like that. Oh, I should probably look into sigil magic. What do you know? Chaos magic is something I like as well. Sigil magic goes with chaos magic. I like both those things. Both those things make me hype as fuck. I'm really into what I'm doing right now. I don't feel silly waving around a wand, dressing in a robe, summoning demons with a key of Solomon. I know EA Quaiding's into that stuff, and I think it's great that that's what he's doing. EA co-editing, I think, is really cool. I'm not hating on him, but I wouldn't go as hardcore as him, because I don't think it's necessary. You don't have to do that, but he does, because he's fucking into it. That's he's really good at knowing his soul shards. He can like poke them really well, and the best sorcerers and witches know their soul. I know I like symbols. I like burning pieces of paper with symbols on it. To me, that feels really wizardy and occulty, because I played video games, and that's how they did it in anime with the magic circles. I've always thought that was cool. So like when I build them and do them, like I think they're really cool. Like look at this. Like, I made this thing. I think it's really cool. That's like what I'm into. So I do sigil magic and I do chaos magic. I just do what I'm into. Like I found the right paradigm for me. And you gotta sort of know how to follow your gut when it comes to these crystal things, because a lot of stuff may not jive with you. And if it doesn't jive with you, just like think about like, well, do I like the crystal enough to jive with it? Or like, you know, does it matter? Like, does this really matter? Like, what really matters to you? The way my altar's set up, you can't see it right now, but it's kind of cool. I like how it is. And I sort of design it to my aesthetic. I like my crystals. I like the different colors. This one, to me, sort of like, it's double pointed, so I feel like because it's in the astral space at the same time, like it could be like a conduit. And that's just how I see it. Kind of like have to sort of like get your own meaning from the crystals to be the most effective with it. But you can get advice. Okay, so I'm going to make a tag right here, and this is going to be the too long didn't read version. So the too long didn't read version is, everyone kind of has an opinion on crystals, but the right way to use them really depends on how you feel about them, because it's best to follow your gut, because when you follow your gut, you're following the truest part of your soul, and your soul will never fail you in magic. Use crystals the way you think they need to be used, and try not to get caught up in all the dogma. And there we go.